Now then, hello everyone. Oh, look at there. How are you doing, everyone? Straight into the chat there. I can see everybody. And first off, apologies for kind of anyone who kind of turned up. I see there's a comment there. Been waiting since 10 a.m. to there this morning. Yes, I got me time zones all wrong. I think I thought I was kind of doing for the Australian crew out there, but apologies for that. It's little hiccup, you know what I mean? But actually, there was loads in the chat as well. So nice of you to kind of come over and say hello. But I was actually in the Potty doing a video, to be honest. So yes, thank you very much. So the usual kind of things. If you want a question answered, pop it on capitals, and that would be fantastic. You know what I mean? Say capitals so I can see it, and we'll try and get to it. You know, there's loads of questions, but you know what I mean? It'd be nice if you could put it in capitals to draw my eye to your special question. Another bit of house tidying. Next week, it's on Tuesday. Yes, next week's on Tuesday. I've got to work night shift, so I've agreed with everyone there. So next week is Tuesday, and hopefully we might have Jessie from Plot 37 on as well. So that's something to look forward to. If you ever watched her latest or one of her latest videos, it's going to be great to have a chat. Not great to have a chat with her, but she's lost all her tomatoes, which was just like gut wrenching. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be kind of nice to get an update on that as well. So yes, I'll tell you what, let's just see, are we all there? Let's just bring in everyone there just to say hello. We'll run the intro in a second. How is everybody? Thank you very much. Oh, look at these happy faces. Oh, yes. Right, let us begin then with the intro. Yes, so welcome to the Potty Mouth Garden Club. Let me bring in all of them. Like I said, it's been nice. I'll tell you what it is, mind you, I'm finding it's busy time now. It's like, I'm even now like not waking up, but you know, I wake up early anyways, but thinking this to do, that to do. It just feels like this snowball's getting bigger. This kind of, you know, like this pollen ball is getting bigger and bigger. Steve, you must be working 8-hour shifts up there, lad. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I've actually had a bit of a week more away from the garden than actually on the garden, as you know.
Wait a minute. What's them on your head? Are you getting a bit professional now there, lad?
Oh, I know. Look at that.
Oh, look at that. And the camera work. Oh, the camera is showing you in... this is Cockermouth's bloody Chippendales we've got in front of it. So,
brilliant.
How are you doing, lad? Are you good? What you must be up there loads in your garden, are you?
I'm doing a bit, but not as much as I'd like to. I was just starting to say, I've had to buy a new computer this week, so I've been getting all that set up. And thanks to JB also for getting my sound up and running for us. That was really decent of you.
It was a little bit scary at one point because we didn't even realize there was no sound coming from Steve and at all. Yes. So have you been up to the garden then? Are you just kind of watering or just, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff? Or are you actually doing?
Yeah, I haven't been full on getting into some jobs, but I have been going up and doing some bits and bobs, but to be honest with you, I am a little bit behind, but hopefully I'll catch up over this next week or two now.
Right.
Things like sowing seeds. I haven't sowed any seeds now for 2
I pressed the wrong... Sorry, it's a good job.
Right.
He wasn't like playing with some, like, you know, something unusual.
It's the first time I've looked handsome for 30 years.
Actually, I was meant to press it for Audrey there. I can't even see my own bloody keyboard there. So,
oh God.
Well, I'll put Audrey. How you doing, girl? How are you doing, lass? Are you?
Very good. Very good.
Yes. What's it like? You know, because your seasons are kind of the start and the stop pretty suddenly. Are you in the full through like a good spring now, or are you?
Oh, we're almost into summer,
Right.
but today it's freezing. So I give up sometimes.
Is it?
So
It's not cold enough to kind of damage anything, is it?
oh no, it's not that kind of freezing, but it's like 50 degrees during the day.
Which is
13,
Uh,
isn't it?
10 degrees Celsius. Thank
right.
you.
That's bloody our summer, man, Audrey. That's our
Oh
summer.
well, God bless you. Yeah, it's a little chilly today, so yeah. So, but it's
JB,
Como. It's
JB,
Como
JB.
right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. I'll just put JB in because he has been busy this week, haven't you, lads? Yes, yeah. So I'll just show everyone there. JB's, if he cannot, well, the saying is, if he cannot carry it, he'll drag it. And he's got himself a nice new greenhouse. JB, how much? Because this is, where did you find this greenhouse?
This was a Facebook Marketplace special.
Right, and how much was
best
it?
place for bargains. It was a tenner. Basically free.
So I've got to send us a couple of pictures there, and you kind of. Now, to be honest, did it come to, because you were telling me you suffered from some tight nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, come on, man. I'm trying to run a show here, man. It's not me that's really laughing.
Oh, so good. We're off to a good start today. Yes, I did have some very tight nuts that I had to deal with on
Right.
this
So,
greenhouse.
did you damage it by any chance or not? Or
The actual frame was all okay, yeah, but I had about 7 or 8 of those nuts and bolts just had to be hacksawed off.
Right.
When they're old, they just get completely seized.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just glad that I took the hacksaw with me.
And
you just need a little junior hacksaw to get in.
Right, and you've stored it nicely and carefully and safely. What
it's
the
so
hell?
neat. It looks so neat and tidy at the moment.
It's just piling Jimmy, it's just piling a mess there, man. Where's, because you had all organisation when you were taking it down, but that just looks like it's like, I've had enough. I'm absolutely sick of it.
Such a rush. I was in such a rush. This is literally today. So this was around lunchtime today, and yeah, we just dumped it on the plot. It's not going to go anywhere, so I'll go up and start sorting that out.
Right, and I guess it's taken up loads of time because you're showing us some of what's happened here. I mean, what? You never plant any things, and then
I know.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah, so this is my shame today. These are all my cucurbits, my squashes, and courgettes and cucumbers.
Never.
And what this is I fixed. So for ages, I just had a skylight in my greenhouse where some of the polycarbonate got blown out in the storm. So basically, since February, I've just had an open roof, and it's been okay. It's not been too cold in the evenings. But I recently fixed the glass. Like, I got some new glass, put it in, and then just kind of forgot because I've been so used to the greenhouse just being basically ventilated all the time. And then we had a really hot day yesterday. I didn't go down until like 3 o'clock, and that is the scene I found.
Wow.
I was just like, oh yeah, it gets warm in greenhouses.
So did you manage to save them then? Have you?
Yeah, most of them are okay.
If they'd been the chilies, I would have basically called victory.
Oh, I tell you what, I don't know, but I think Waitrose's plant standards have dropped.
They should be hardier.
So, JB, then what's the plan with the greenhouse? Because I know you've got some free time coming. So,
yeah, indeed. So the problem is at the moment, it is missing quite a bit of glass. I'm gonna have to spend probably best part of £100 getting it reglazed. There's a lot missing, but that's fine. When the greenhouse is so cheap, that's fine. The plan is to kind of have it next to the existing greenhouse, but the problem is I don't know what to do about the greenhouse base, because the greenhouse that I've got at the moment, I put that on some softwood sleepers, and I don't think that was a very good idea. I don't think they're going to last too long, and it's a bit scary because once you've got like the greenhouse built on top of the base, you can't really be messing around in it once it's got the weight of the glass in there. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do for the base yet.
It's funny enough. I was talking to Mark, one of the allotments, and he's getting a new greenhouse. I think he's got about 3 or 4 on his plot now, and he did brickwork all the way around, then big sleepers on top though of the brickwork. So
Yeah,
I'm not
our issue is we're not allowed any mortar or anything that sets hard on our
right.
plots.
Well,
That's
then
pretty
you've
much
got
the
to
only
go.
rule.
You've got to go wood, then, haven't you? Really, there's
Yeah.
nothing else to
The-
kind of.
The other option is you can get like ground anchors, which you can kind of like drill in, and they're basically just like glorified tent pegs. But the ground in that bit of the plot is so rocky. Like there's so many stones. I think someone had a foundation for like a shed or something there at one point. You know, it's just unworkable. But I'll
Right.
figure it out.
You'll get
Probably
there.
go
You'll
to
get
sleep
there.
again, but we'll figure it out.
Steve, any recommendations for the young lad? Obviously, open his greenhouse windows first to get some. You know what I mean? That's kind of.
Yeah, shucks, you took that one from me. Yeah, I mean, my greenhouse at the back here, I've got it on paving slabs, and I've put some brickwork in, and then I've drilled and plugged into the brickwork. Obviously, I've got mortar with the bricks on top of the slabs, but you could do that. You could go drill directly into slabs and then plug and screw your frame down to that, and that will give it some way to stop it toppling. Because you'll find anyway that once you've got all the glass in the greenhouse, it's heavy anyway. You just want to stop it toppling, don't you? Really?
Yeah.
Mind you can
Sounds like a plan.
get some kind of JB, you can get some big old meaty chunky paving slabs. You know what I mean? Like old council ones are huge, thick things. You know what I mean? So
I've just seen someone in the comments actually. They
yeah.
said they recommended breeze blocks, which is probably quite a good shout.
But how do you?
They're quite light.
Well, there's
Yeah,
two
they
different
are.
kinds, isn't it? You can get breeze blocks, and then you can get like this, I guess, cement ones as well.
Yeah.
So,
That'd be nice because it's nice to have that bit of extra height as well. It's quite a shorter greenhouse, so it would be nice to have it on something.
So weird how they don't let you. I suppose you can understand why they don't want you to have kind of cement there. You go to mine.
It's the same on our site. We're not allowed to use concrete either.
Oh, so you just totally ignored their rule, did you, and just put it down?
No, my greenhouse is up here. I haven't done it down the
Oh,
allotments.
right. Also, so what is how you've mentioned this before, Steve? Is yours like a parish council allotment? It's not like right. So there is someone governing the kind of rules of what you do there.
Oh yeah. And we had a new parish council about 5 or 6 years ago, and they overhauled all of the rules, and everything's gone to pot now. But we're getting back on top of them slowly but surely. They're just spending money stupidly because they see a job that needs doing, rather than asking the allotment holders. Because you'll find that most allotment holders are good at DIY and they can get the jobs done themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're getting contractors in. I reckon in the last 6 years they spent close to 75 grand on our 2 allotment sites, and they're needing to spend a penny of it.
Have you got running water there though?
Oh yeah.
All right, that's all right. Audrey, I guess you on your tour. I didn't see you had a greenhouse. I don't think you did anyway. So
I don't, but I'm still thinking about the tight nuts. I can't
know.
get past
I know. He's slacking them off, so he's out of kind of dangerous territory there with his tight nuts.
He's so young.
He's too young. He's far too young to have tight nuts. It's only the older generation. What are you allowed, Audrey? Because you've got some strict rules as well with your kind of ground. Are you allowed to have greenhouses and stuff like that?
I really haven't looked into it. I think what we're going to do, we have the back of our garage faces south. And so we're going to put a bank of windows in the back of the garage.
Right.
And I'm going to use like the last 6 or 8 feet as a greenhouse. So I don't need to have another structure.
Right. Oh.
So we'll see how that goes.
So again, if we have any questions, just pop them in the chat in capitals. I'll try and keep an eye out for them. I'm just having a little look there. Audrey Stewart, Audrey has that cold snap effect of your big melons. Oh, I can see the type of show
know,
this is getting to now. This is just getting.
I did respond to him about the melons, and they are just fine. I think I said that in one show, and JB was giggling the whole time. And it was one of those things, I did not hear what I was saying. But watching it back, I thought that was ridiculous. Yes.
So you have, though, because I've seen your video where you've actually, come on, gentlemen, please behave yourselves, man. You've actually done the video about the melon challenge.
Yes.
Yes. So,
and they're all up.
Right.
There's not a big one among them, just so we're all clear. So those are going to go get hardened off this week because I want to get them in really quick.
Right. Well, Stan did promises. I hope you're listening there, Stan. So I can have a melon as well. He's grown some melons, so I'll try and get onto that. Now, before we go any further, I'm just going to play a little video of a gentleman called Glenn Salters. Now, Glenn's a local lad, and he got in touch with us through Instagram. And our guests here, Steve, JB, and Audrey, haven't seen his video, but I'm dead interested to find out what they think. Because in some ways, I think we're all a little bit the same as, I'm not saying organic, but more natural way of feeding and growing and everything like that. And Glenn got in touch with us and says, Tony, I do it way, way differently. So I'm going to run this little interview, see what you think, and I'll have a little chat with them, everybody, in a second or two, or 10 minutes. So we have on our show today, and I'm very pleased to have him on, Glenn Salters. Now, Glenn got in touch with us and listens to the show. Thank you very much, Glenn. Got in touch with us and says, Tony, I'm kind of living in the northeast of England, and I've got my chili peppers in my polytunnel now, and they've got fruit on. And honestly, Glenn, I'll just say hello to you there. So when I see you, Glenn, and I seen the photographs you sent over, it was like, that's not real. You know what I mean? I've been mothering my chili peppers in this kind of closeted kind of, unnatural life thing. And you've got yours in your polytunnel with fruit on. And then you said, it's all about the science, Tony. And I was just blown away because I think in some way I'm a kind of a traditional gardener, Glenn. So you're in your messages and that, you're talking about, and I mean, I've got pipettes. Can you see this there? The pipette. I'm going to start using pipettes and special formula. You know what I mean? CalMag. Never done anything like this. So has the science of tomatoes, Glenn, always, or the science of gardening, should I say, been at the forefront of your kind of horticultural experience?
Yeah, I think so. So to start with, we're talking about feeding and stuff like that. A lot of people just use sort of Tomerite, grow organically, use a bit of Tomerite and let nature try and do its thing, which in its simple form, in its essence, that's perfect. You might get a decent crop of tomatoes, you might get a lot of pests and diseases, and a lot of things might crop up that you might not realize just a few extra micronutrients could sort all of them problems out. Namely, so I've just give you some information about CalMag there. And it's also
show you this CalMag. This is what I've got. That's one of me now. That's part of the arsenal I'm going to be kind of incorporating, Glenn, on your recommendations.
Yeah. So calcium, magnesium, and I think there's some chelated iron, and there's a lot of other nutrients in there like boron, sulfur, and all that. But you don't really need to know much about them. So in its simplest form, calcium increases sort of strong cell walls, gives them really strong, vigorous growth, which you tend to not get in abundance in sort of compost grown, container grown. You might get a little bit of it in your soil if you've got good soil, but it's quite overlooked in magnesium as well. Magnesium helps promote a lot of chlorophyll, which that takes in a lot of light. Your red and your blue light. It takes a lot of light in and gives your plant sort of photosynthesis in abundance, which is pure energy to a plant.
Now, well, Glenn, just being from a naive point of view, why isn't, because you always just see, tomato feed Tomerite, Basically, it's
Yeah.
Tomorite. Why is that so popular then? If it's just a kind of mediocre, by the sound of it.
So it's an organic fertilizer, and people have pushed that for many years. It's healthy, it's healthy, it's healthy. And it is healthy as well. You can also get organic calcium, magnesium. And I'm not opposed to either. I use both. I use synthetic and organic. I will just use anything that suits. But tomatoes are really heavy feeders, Tony. So if we're going into the science of things, you've got, I don't know if I showed you, like you've got little pH meters,
Yes.
sort of, and there's something called an EC meter, which is electrical conductivity. So basically, tomatoes need an EC range of about 2 to 3 when they're starting to flower and grow very vigorously. And a lot of people can never even hit their ranges. I mean, the stuff in my tent is just under 2. So I'm not even hitting my maximum potential feed. So on the back of Tomorite, it'll say maybe feed once a week. Really, if you put an EC meter in your soil, I bet you're not even touching 1 EC. Which in tomatoes at that, like I say, at the peak form, need to be between 2 and 3.
So this was, well, again, this was the thing as well that got me, was because you says, oh, Tony, I feed every day. And it was
Yes.
just like that. And again, was like, you can, every day? I was told by my mother, once a week, give a good Tomorite feed and you're done for it. So this is what, like, just if any folks are listening there, to do with this once a day is quite a startling, almost, it's almost like steroids. You know what I mean?
It's classed as fertigation. It's big in America now, and I think it's just starting to get big in this country. So plants are a lot like humans. We need food every day and water.
I need quite a little bit, Glenn. You know,
I know, and alcohol. And plants are very similar to us. They need food every day. Now, if they can't get as much as they need out of the soil, out of the nutrients, we have to help them do that. So in America, fertigation, this new way of irrigating, the feed is already in the water that they irrigate with, if you know what I mean. So the Americans have been doing it for probably the last 15 years at least, that I know of, just from like sort of research and stuff like that. And it's never done the Americans any harm. I know just sort of Holland's a very big tomato sort of grower under glass at the minute. And I think they're starting to do the same thing. So they call it fertigation. So they will do it every single day to keep them high EC levels up, which tomatoes need.
Right. Well, I tell you what got me is Glenn, is when you showed us the photographs. You showed us actually some chili peppers in the polytunnel, like you say, and I don't know when you put them in. Is your polytunnel unheated?
Yeah, it's unheated.
So that in itself is a miracle. Do you know what I mean? It's like, because we have early on had like lower temperatures, and I'm not talking about kind of through the winter months, but you've obviously had your chili plants in way before anybody else, and they're still going, you know what I mean, that they haven't been touched.
I put my chilies in. I've got the grow tent behind us, like I say. I started my chilies the first week in March. Put them in the tent about 19th of April, I think I sent on the photo to you. So they haven't had long. So, and that's just from constant feeding every day, a little bit of feed, like trickle feeding, like I was just saying to you before.
But just getting back to this is what I still find quite remarkable, getting back to because I've been, and I think it's hit everybody, we've had cold snaps and you lose things. You don't seem to be losing any things with cold snaps. Is that down to the actual condition you're making them plants now?
I put my plants in during the first few frosts, to be honest. I personally put them in over a warmish weekend, like a mild, cloudy weekend. You're talking 12, 13 degrees. Put them in on, say, a Friday. I've already given them this heavy dose of feeding that I've been talking about all the way through. From about 4 weeks on, I start feeding. Put them in as early as sort of 8 weeks. They've got the life, they've got the strong sort of rigidity, the hardness from just the feed. And growing under glass or growing under polytunnels, you don't need to harden them off. They sort of do it naturally through nutrients. So unless a really sort of harsh frost comes, you're talking -1. Plants, tomatoes, your cucurbits, your nightshades, they can all last down to 1 degree, believe it or not. And they might just be slightly stunted, but you've got the feed there to pick them up.
Right.
So as soon as it's warm, the feed's there. A lot of energy, a lot of sugars are taken up. They're flourishing. So if you can keep your polytunnel above 1 degree, well fed, and you're fine.
Well, like
You
I
can
say,
always
I'll paste in some photographs, and then we can see like the chilies. Your chilies are looking now what mine looked at the end of the season. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like that's
Yeah.
and like I say, that's just feeding once a week with kind of tomerites and all that. But it's just remarkable for me how you can kick it off even earlier than what
Yeah.
I'm almost to the point now where I'm kind of terrified to take things to the polytunnel just because of the slightest knock. But if you feed them right and you give them the perfect conditions, you're saying they'll stand up a
Yeah,
little bit.
I've got plants. I'm still about to put some in. I've got around about 30 plants. I think I messaged you, and I've got I'm going to put them in maybe this weekend or next weekend. And what I'll do is I'll just put them. I've got a shelf pretty similar to yourself. I'll put them on the shelf and I'll let them sort of adjust in the polytunnel for about, like I say, 3 days, and then I'll start and pot them up. And once they've adjusted to the polytunnel, that's all they need.
One last question then, Glenn, just before we kind of shoot off, just so I can kind of get Steve's and, JB and Audrey's thoughts on this kind of almost intensive feeding. Has the science ever let you down? Do you know what I mean? Have you ever come to a plant and said, well, I've got, the formula says, but why is it doing this?
No, the science has never let us down due to feeding. If I'm very meticulous and methodical, should we say, and I know just from experience what deficiencies my plants have. So if you get to know your deficiencies in your plants, why is this, why is this, is it mobile, is it immobile sort of deficiencies? Once you know that, it's just pest control. And if you're good with your pest control, you should have no problems getting good crops and high yields.
Glenn, you've got me thinking, you've got me excited all over again. Listen, a big thank you for coming on. Like I say, it's when you reached out,
pleasure,
it's just
Tony.
kind of lovely to have you on there. And I'm sure you'll be in the chat and you can answer people's questions, or I'll send folks over. Have you got a YouTube channel where we find you, Glenn?
I haven't got a YouTube channel, but I've got an Instagram page, and I'll just get it up here.
Right. Well, I'll put it on the show notes as well.
Yeah, you've got my Instagram. That's all I use, and that's pretty much.
Glenn, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tony. A pleasure.
There you go. So there was, like I say, Glenn got in touch with us, and I'm sure he's in the chat if anybody wants to kind of go over and have a chat with him. And it was nice because I know like he's probably the polar opposite of Steve. Steve, we talked about it, the other. No, all right, he's shaking his head there. So Steve, we'll jump to you straight away if you don't mind, Steve, and just get your overall thoughts on Glenn and his like process and what his method, because I've honestly never heard of like everyday feeding, and I know Glenn says there is like organic methods, like the CalMags, you can get them organic, and there is the synthetics. So what's your take on just after just watching that video?
A couple of quick points. The CalMag stuff, I put that in my soil in a different way. I use rock dust. That's available from Scotland. That's got all those trace elements in, and that's what I've used for quite some time now, and that's brilliant. But that's a separate discussion, really. On the feeding, it shows you how much you were watching my channel last year, because you should know already about me that I feed my tomatoes every day, and for exactly the same reason that Glenn said. As a human, if you drink water for 3 or 4 days, then have a big meal, you're not going to be very well at the end of it. You've got to eat, and you've got to eat and drink. I try to water my tomatoes every day once they're fruiting, and every day it's got a weak solution of feed in there. I don't go heavy, so that every time I'm putting something in the soil, it's there for the roots. There's no point putting the feed in on Wednesday and then on wet Friday, you're watering with just water and you're washing that feed out the soil away from the plants. So every day, and that's why the water butt's in there, and I put the feed in the water butt. And I made a whole video about it last year, and I've just made another video about it today, which will either be published tonight or tomorrow morning.
What Glenn did say as well, which I thought was interesting, Steve, is he says, if you do this kind of intensive feed, especially with like the CalMag and everything like that, he says you'll get like you might get what's called a nutrient block, So I'm kind of, in my mind, what I would kind of told us to do is just give, like, say, maybe once a month, a good flush with water, like a normal water feed, and then carry on. You flushed it out. Not going to get this nutrient block as well. So, what else did you think of the interview then, Steve? Because
Very good. To be honest with you, I mean, I've just learned an awful lot from that. I didn't know about the EC thing, so that's something for me to go and look up, find out about, and then test and do my usual thing with stuff. I didn't have a clue. I know all about pH meters he mentioned. EC, totally new to me. And there was a couple of other things. I'll have to go back over and watch it again.
Well, like I say, he's in the chat, and he's more than happy to kind of come on and have a chat. But I just thought it was kind of fascinating, especially when he showed us his photographs of, like, his peppers.
That was another thing I thought was interesting, that he puts his chilies in at 1 degree in his polytunnel, and by feeding he gets around this hardening up. So again, that's something new to me, and something I'm going to have to pin down for my own use moving forward. Do you
know what this means, though, Steve?
Prepared to get battered.
Do you know what this means, though? There's a lot more testing for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, that's great, because that's what excites me about gardening. If there's something new happening every day, every day's a school day, and that keeps me interested and keeps me, moving forward. More things to do and learn about.
That was exactly the same when, like I say, when Glenn got in touch with us. I got this excitement all over. Do you know what I mean? JB, now I know you need help with your, with your plants, you know what I mean? Because it kind of. So what did you take from that then? Because we're kind of two chili growers there. I know Steve's got a bit of a tickly tummy, and he doesn't like heat, he doesn't like hot things, and he's a chef that doesn't cook with chilies. Spoils the meal. Is that what you said, Steve?
No, not at all. I like to be able to enhance a meal. If you're going to put an ingredient into food, you've got to be able to taste it. That's all. Everybody's a bit more tolerant of some heat than others, I would love, and I mean this wholeheartedly, I know that some of the mid-range chilies have got very fruity tastes and flavours. I've been told that countless times, and I would love to be able to taste that, but I know they would be too hot for me as it stands now. If I started eating chilies regularly all the time, then that tolerance would build up in me, and I could experience it. But, there's two of us in this relationship here, and it really doesn't agree with Anne's stomach, unfortunately. So we don't use chilies a great deal. It's just one of those things.
Shut up, pull him on that. JB, like what Steve mentioned as well, what got me is when Glenn puts he's putting his chilies out in pretty cold conditions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And both me and you are kind of, dancing around, tiptoeing around the bloody weather and all that nonsense. And if we just kind of, have you got any reservations of doing, say, intensive feeding like that?
No, not at all. So I'd be interested. I mean, it was just the tip of the iceberg. It felt like I'd definitely be interested to hear lots more about because it doesn't sound like he's feeding that intensively. It just sounds like he's doing little and often, which is, I mean, generally considered very, it's proven. Like that is a very established way of doing things. Pretty much hands down the best way you can do for chilies is either hydroponically or with a drip irrigation system, so that you release a small amount of water at regular intervals with a diluted amount of feed. The problem is that unless you've got a proper setup with all that stuff, it's very difficult to do. And for a lot of allotment growers like you and I, we can't get down there every day. And you don't want to have a weak link in the system. If you've got a dripper set up and it breaks or your irrigation system breaks, then, there's a lot of sensitivity. Whereas if you go down and drench your plants every 3 or 4 days, it's a little more resilient, and it won't be as optimum, but that's how I do it. I would love to have a back garden set up with automation and all that kind of stuff. Maybe one day. But
I know that the automation sounds lovely, but I just for me, like say, honestly, I was brought up, my mum, Tom Wright once a week, nice feed, when the flowers are going that way. To know that there's this other method, You know, and I like what Steve said, a little bit weaker, you know what I mean, every day as well. But to see his fruit, you know what I mean, on his plants there now was quite startling.
Yeah, I think you still have to be careful. And, he's talking about stuff like nutrient blocks, and that's probably a sign that you're just overfeeding, and then you're kind of wasting it. If there's too much and you're then having to wash it
But
out,
this is
it's
where
kind of a waste of money.
this is where JB the science takes over, and this is what Glenn was saying. If you've got your monitors and you're monitoring, your EC, you'll know it's kind of things are going, and then you do your flush, and then you're back on. And to be honest, I had a chat afterwards the video, and we're kind of online for a little bit, just because I could have sat and talked to him. There's so much he's kind of, he's throwing away tips and tricks it's like confetti. Do you know what I mean? It was like, well, what did you say there, Glenn? What did you say there, Glenn? Audrey, is this something new for you, or?
CalMag, use on tomatoes. That was not new. The whole time I'm listening to him, I'm thinking, okay, the only way I would be able to do that is to maybe like have IV bags going into my tomatoes. No, and I'm not. I'm kidding, but I'm not, because then I could get that slow drip of nutrients that he's talking about. Because I just and again, I've heard about the whole injection, and I have drip irrigation here, so we can inject nutrients into our drip. I know a lot of people who do that. I guess I'm still a little old school in the way I do it, but I'm very interested in what he had to say. I think that's definitely worth a good look.
Audrey, what's your feeding setup then for your tomatoes? Your daily routine or your weekly routine?
Well, when I plant them, I plant them with an organic tomato fertilizer. We don't have Tamarite here, so I'm not really sure what that is. But I use an organic, slow release feed in the hole. I put the stuff I love.
The fungi.
There you go. Thank you. I put that in, and then I water them every couple of weeks, and I spray them with CalMag, and I just spray them. And I find I need to spray again right when they're setting flowers, so that I don't get any blossom end rot. And then I water them every couple of weeks with a fish emulsion.
Well, it's when you just mentioned the blossom end rot there as well. Glenn mentioned that as well. You can kind of kiss that goodbye with this kind
Absolutely. CalMag takes care of that.
of.
And I didn't learn I never had blossom end rot until last year, because I was growing some of my tomatoes in a container. And, obviously you're limited. The plant is limited in what kind of nutrition it gets. And I had blossom end rot, and as soon as I sprayed it again with CalMag, it was fine.
Well, there's a certain other method as well that I kind of do that I think is worthwhile considering. I pray. And I pray to God Almighty.
That goes without saying.
You know what I mean? I get down on my knees to that garden god and say, just once, let me have a tomato.
We thought you were weeding.
Oh no! He never listens. Right, I'll say questions then. I'll put me on there. Marita is asking, any recommendations for a blueberry? Would it grow well in a large container? Now, I feel like that could be Audrey. A blueberry, is that something you might dabble in, Audrey?
Yes, it will grow in a large container. Absolutely. This is the first year, actually, I'm moving mine into the ground. So I've had great success with large containers.
What about feed then?
I just make sure it's acidic. And I just add a acidic soil addition. But I do test that a couple times, because the more acid the soil, the tastier your blueberries, and the more prolific. Yeah.
Right. Steve, anything to add? Blueberries?
Not something I've ever grown. All I know about them, I think it's ericaceous compost you need for it. I've never ever grown them.
And well, I'm guessing this lad's never grown them. Look, if he's grown a
No.
tomato. And if he
No,
does
I'm
grow
afraid
them, if he does grow things, they look like that.
Yeah, my blueberries would look
Did everyone see that? hey up, Vicar. Look at mine. Cucumbers.
God.
You see what it's like when I'm kind of doing it, I just brush it off. But now because somebody else, JB's got it done, I can kind of totally go to town on it. What we're talking about, JB, I've lost my train of thought. You'll not blueberries, yes.
Blueberries.
You'll not be doing.
Yeah, I'd love to try them. I eat quite a lot of blueberries, so it's definitely, once again, I do have an actual list of things I would like to grow if I get a second plot.
That list's
And
no
blueberries
good,
are
man.
quite
That
high on
list's
that
bloody gathering dust.
I know. I need to, maybe if I start protesting outside the council, they'll give me one of the abandoned plots.
We've got Twig, the Welsh urban gardener, is asking, and he says, sorry, he meant last month. He says, when is the latest month you can sow peppers, chili seeds? I'm sure now are we probably a little bit kind of too late for sowing? JB,
I would think so.
I'm the resident chili expert.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it all depends on. I saw that. It all depends on how big you want your plants to be, right? Because you can, if you want to try a new chili that you've never tried before, you can just like force some. Grow them in small 3-inch pots or like 1 liter, and that will have enough time to get to its full size, and you will be able to get some fruit off that and try it. But if you want a proper, a full-size plant in a 5-liter to a 10-liter pot, then you probably want to get that in mid-April at the very latest. If you've got a fast-growing chili pepper, one of the annum families can be quite fast-growing. But I think coming into May now, well, the end of May,
Well, Stu Tube's asking, JB, and I might as well keep you on there. My chilies are only about 8 inches. That's fine, isn't it? There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say that's definitely fine. Mine are probably about that. And mine are doing pretty well. They're doing better than they did last year. And last year,
what did you say? Yours are doing well.
They were pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Last year they were.
last year's a distant memory, lad. Once I've got the pictures, last year's a distant memory.
I should have never showed you this one, should I?
So I tell you what, because I know Glenn's in the thing, but Fan Dabby Dorsey is asking, is CalMag safe for vegetables rather than flowers? Is anybody, Audrey? I guess you must know then. You're spreading on your tomatoes.
Well, and there was a question too, a follow-up with that. I use a foliar CalMag feed. It's organic, and I just spray the foliage. And I have no idea if that works on flowers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. That I had never even considered that. I don't know.
Steve, I've got a question. Rubik Cube is asking here, and I'll put this on you. What can you use to complement comfrey?
Use to complement it? I'm not
I guess like another feeding as well as comfrey. Or is that all you use, actually?
Pretty much. I mean, as I say, I've made a video about feed today. There are a couple of others I use. I use a nettle tea. And if I've got time and a barrel free, I will make a weed tea. And that's basically anything I've taken out of, if I've been weeding anywhere. So they'll all go in a barrel with water. And that includes with all the soil and whatever weeds, they just go in there. As long as you sieve it later on, you've got a good general purpose feed there. Nettle tea is really good as a nitrogen source. So for things like your brassicas or your lettuce, and your comfrey your comfrey liquid. You use that with anything that's sort of fruiting or flowering, and they sort of cover the whole gamut of things that you're going to need on, feeding in a garden.
Right, right. I'm just going to jump to John Boyle's asking there. What solution percent ratio did he mention? This is Glenn mentioned for say a 10 litre watering can. Well, Glenn recommended to me just to start off like in baby footsteps, like a 3 ml of dose of Calmag. So that's my pipette. I got them on Amazon, I think, and it's just a 3 ml. So I just in there in the like a 2 gallon watering can, mix it up. He did mention as well potash for tomato feed, which I'm putting in as well. And what Glenn mentioned, which I thought was he says a good experiment would be to try it on like I'm not saying damaged plants because these are damaged plants. You know what I mean? But on me, on my the Brad's Atomic, to try it on there to see if they would kind of rejuvenate, and kind of get things back up. So 3 mls is Calmag. What else can we chat about? Why we're on about kind of feeding and everything in polytunnels and greenhouses, Steve. We're now coming into some, and I know that's JB's showing them photographs, which is an ideal kind of lead in, JB, to this kind of topic. But shading your greenhouse and shading your polytunnel, JB's found out the hard way. Kind of the sun just is like, she's a cruel mistress if you don't.
Yes, she can be.
Aye. What's any advice?
Well, if you've got a greenhouse, you can buy a whitewash, which you can paint directly onto the glass of your greenhouse, and that will shade it. Or you can put shade cloth on, or you can do the same in your polytunnel. Or you can set shade cloth up with just bits of cane and string and wire in your polytunnel. Very Heath Robinson, and all your shade cloth needs to be is just some sort of woven netting. You don't want sacking, obviously, because that cuts all the light out, but just something that diffuses the sunlight coming in. And of course, you want ventilation as well, both ends of your structure, if you can.
Well, because I've never bothered, Steve, with kind of say shading, but I've always had, it gets to roundabout now, I leave both doors open. So I've never kind of come into trouble with like in a bleaching hot sun, as long as I've got this kind of through draft.
Yeah.
Should I still be thinking about shading?
If we get like a severe summer, like we used to do in the 70s, probably, but we don't really get that many severe summers anymore. But I mean, I don't like the idea of leaving the doors of the polytunnel open overnight. That's when things get in and mess around in there. And it can get too cold sometimes. So that's why this year I am fitting some windows, as I said, I think on the last live we did. I'm fitting some windows that automatically open at both ends of the polytunnel, and that will take care of that. And hopefully I won't need to shade. I haven't needed to shade anything really for a couple of years now.
Because we'll get on just, Steve, you've got one of those, like say the Amazon polytunnel ones, the green ones. Are they
right?
Are they good for shading? Are they? Or will that just let as much light as the normal polytunnel?
I don't think they do. I don't think they let in as much light. Things do struggle in there, certainly the early part of the year. And that was demonstrated by, I think, peppers. I think, was it last year or the year before? I had a ton of pepper plants in there, but they all just stayed green and none of them ripened at all. And I think that was because I was in one of those green, green checkerboard polytunnels.
Now, do you guys ever feel like you need to shade things outdoors?
Well, I was going to ask you, Audrey, what because yours is all outdoors, and you've got your kind of your blistering heat. You said, what do you do for that then?
So if I have any kind of brassicas that of course are netted, I shade them come July 4th weekend, just because they don't like to be hammered with sun. I mean, they like the sun, but ours hammers. So I shade them for till it starts to cool off again in like late September.
Right.
Right. JB,
Yeah.
I've shaded.
sorry, Steve, what was that?
When I used to grow giant pumpkins, I used to shade the pumpkins on the really hot days because the sun would really harden the skin. And as I'm trying to get this pumpkin to swell, it would then
Right.
crack and rot.
Right.
So
No. Yep.
squashes would get some shade if it's severe
Yep.
sun.
So it's probably me, like I say, we haven't had severe sun. You know what I mean? It's like we're up north. You know what I mean? The kind of softy southerners. You know what I mean? Like kind of different there. What's your take on it all? Because you know, 2 greenhouses now. You have to be careful.
Yeah.
You can't be
No,
doing
I mean,
you can't be doing
yeah,
that
no,
no
they are.
more. You've got to be on your game, man.
The reason they're like that is not because of sun; it's just temperature. That's because I was an idiot.
Let
and
us
I
just
left
have a little
everything
look
closed
again.
for too long.
Oh, dear me.
They're going to haunt my dreams so many times.
So,
Gonna hold
JB,
my
would you
dreams.
have you heard of what Steve mentioned? This kind of white on the windows.
Yeah, well, the new greenhouse that I've just picked up, half of it has got
Oh, that's
whitewash
right.
on it.
I'm
So,
sure. Yeah, look, aye.
Yeah, you can see a little bit on the top there. Yeah, a few of the panes have been whitewashed. So I'm
Yeah,
hoping that. I might just leave it, but
they knew what they
I've
were
never
doing.
felt. Yeah, probably. I've never felt the need to shade, but I've never really had issues with crops bolting. Everything gets eaten by the slugs before they can bolt. The only thing that I find bolts or really gets hammered by the sun is pak choi. I don't know if shading would really help that. And as well on my plot, I do have a massive, great big tree. So from about
Right.
3 o'clock, it casts quite a lot of shade on everything. So it's not full sun on my allotment.
For me, it's ventilation. That's the one thing that kind of above everything else. If I forget to open the polytunnel, or you go back and everyone's has had that, JB. Where it's just kind of it's just horrific. You go and you think, bloody hell. Do you know what I mean? And it looks like your soil has never been watered for weeks. Do you know what I mean? It's like crispy hard, and you think, I was here yesterday. I soaked them. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, but it's only the top half inch, isn't it? It's only the top half inch or inch. Underneath, it's still moist.
Well, no. Are you sure?
God's sake.
What else then? What else we told? Is there any more questions? I'll tell you what, Clive Rutherford's saying, if anyone was interested in Blue Lab EC meters are good. Now, I'm not sure how much an EC meter is or anything like that, but it might be worth, because I'm, like I say, going to start having a go at the CalMag and just to see what happens. You know what I mean? Anybody wants to ask, I see Salty Pepper's still in there. So by all means, ask Glenn any questions. Going through.
I see one from Robin Miller.
Right, read it out then.
It's directed to me. Can I keep lettuce going in the heat of summer? She struggles, or he struggles where they are. I do, but I only grow heat tolerant varieties of lettuce in the summer, and I keep them in a shadier location and lots of water. Yep.
What would, in your area then, Audrey, what would you expect if you didn't use heat shading ones? You know what I mean? What would happen?
I think it would bolt like within days.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would not tolerate.
So the ones you've got, they're pretty kind of rock solid, dependable.
Well, right now I still have my spring ones out, but as soon as I start sowing more to replace those, I'll do all heat tolerant varieties that are very resistant to bolting and can take a lot of sun.
And when will you start doing your second sowing of salads?
Probably mid to late June.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll let them go right through till the frost kills them.
Steve, what about you then? Do you take into consideration like the heat for, like, say, because I'm now trying to go all in on salad, you know what I mean? So I'm just kind of riffing on this topic a little bit, where I was basically just going to keep on doing the same, plant and replant and resow the same kind of probably 10 little varieties that I've got. Do you make a considerable effort to think, right, summertime, summer lettuce?
I try my best to. I sort of go half and half with that. I know roughly what a good lettuce is for the summer and for the winter, but I also have favourites that I want to grow regardless of whether they're suited to the temperature. So I do a lot of that, and that's why quite often in my lettuce patches you'll often see spaces because they've just died because they're not right. But I want to try and grow those just because I like them.
JB, what about you?
Well, I don't grow that many salad varieties. I quite often try them and then they don't do too well. But the one that I have is called, that always does really well, is called All the Year Round. And it's just like a pretty round, standard butterhead lettuce. And it's so good. And you can chuck anything at it. So if if it gets too hot in the greenhouse, it doesn't mind. If it gets too cold overnight, it doesn't mind. It's like the perfect
Do you know why
lettuce
that is?
for
Because
someone like
they're
me.
plastic. That's why.
Did you say if it
It's pretty
gets
good,
too
though.
hot in the greenhouse?
It survives. Yep.
All right.
Did it?
Like that,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. The lettuce looked fine.
I didn't show us
Fine.
the
It's
picture of the
maybe not
lettuce.
fine. But yeah.
I meant to ask, was there like a sale on headgear this week?
Oh, have you not noticed that me and Stephen have got this
And was I not invited? I mean, what?
Well, we've worked out because there was some background sound, and we worked out it was us talking, going into Steve's speakers and then into his microphone. So as you can guess, that kind of bamboozled him for a.
That's why I got that.
We're going to all game with Jamie later on. We're doing some gaming, some Minecraft. Audrey, just while you're on there, let me just put you. Grown in Scotland is asking Audrey, when you're saying spray with CalMag, is that on the compost or are you actually spraying your foliage?
Oh, it's definitely a foliar spray.
Right.
Yes. But I think what Steve was saying earlier is that he treats his soil. Honestly, I just found it easier to spray it on my foliage.
Right, because I'm just kind of mixing it in my water and then just.
Sure.
And what Glenn says, just count 5 seconds. So this is my kind of setup for the next, this season to see how it goes. I get a 2-gallon watering can, 3 mils of the CalMag. Well, I put the potash, is it potassium? I think the tomato feed in first. Mix it, 3 mils of that, and then that's 1 watering can. 5 seconds, count to 5 is enough for 1 tomato plant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Move on to the next one. And I can get 4 watering cans at the moment, do me tomatoes. So that's my kind of setup. Are you impressed? Impressed. Anything else? Let's have a look. Have I got anything about...
I'd just say as well, a really good and cheap source of calcium or magnesium, one or the other, is just Epsom salts. And you might have those lying around the house. I sprinkle a little bit in with my chili potting mix, and you can use that as a foliar spray as well. And that on chili peppers is quite good early in the season. It will kind of darken their leaves and help them in that hardening off process.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that as well, JB, to be honest. I've got a question here for Sarah, because I've experienced this, Sarah. How can you prevent red onions from bolting? Well, I just stopped using sets, and I'm now trying seeds. If you're using sets, Sarah, it's best to probably try and get heat-treated ones, but they still kind of bolted for me. So I bought red onions that I know somebody else had sown from seed, and they worked. Steve, any advice for Sarah on bolting red onions? Do you get a lovely crop of red onions?
I did last year, but they, unfortunately, I think they must have had a touch of white rot because they didn't last long beyond sort of October, and they were all gone. And most of my garlic as well, apart from the elephant, that all went before October. But I don't. Red onions is one of those difficult things, I think, to grow in this country. You'll certainly get better results from seed or from heat-treated sets, but don't. you quite often see them in the budget superstores, just cheap onions or red onion sets, and you're attracted to them because it looks like there's about 1,000 of them in there. Just stay away from them because they're next to useless.
Mm-hmm.
Heat treated sets, or better still, grow your own from seed. It's not difficult.
Well, I actually
Even I can do that.
I grow mine. I stick mine in the red ones, but then I just pull them as spring onions. Do you know what I mean? Because I know they're going to fail and it's miserable and it's kind of. Audrey, what about you then? Do you have any trouble with red onions? You look in there, you're going to say no, perfect, not a fault.
Oh, that's what I
Disneyland.
need to wear. Mickey Mouse ears next week. How about that? Yeah, that'll be my okay. I have not had problems with red onion, but I grow them from seed. So,
Well, I'm hoping this year, like I say, if this will be a defining moment in my gardening kind of calendar, just going from seed. All it means is though a bit more hassle. But actually, I was thinking of bringing one of the propagators into here in the early months, like the kind of February time, and just having a little table, using one, and then taking things into the tunnel. You know what I mean? Because, like you say, you don't need a big tray to. So Audrey, you sent us over them sunflowers, and I'm sure there must have been about 50. I've gotten 50, load of sunflowers, and it was just one packet, but it was just put into like one little seed tray, pricked out into a bigger tray. So, yes, I don't know where I'm going there with that one. We're about red onions, right?
No, do I. We're all confused.
Hey, what day is it? Don't forget, next week, it's on Tuesday. We can't, if anyone's just joined, it'll be on Tuesday, 7 o'clock, but it'll be on Tuesday. We have just went over the hour. Do you think that's it? Anybody else got anything else to say? I had a few more things. I was going to mention, everybody's talking about micro cherry tomatoes. Anybody heard about these micro cherry? Look at Steve. Steve's got an opinion. He's got an opinion. What is it, lad?
They've been around for quite a few years. I've seen the little red currant ones before. The size of a red currant, and they're not bad. But they're nothing ever new comes up in gardening, does it? It's just a different way of doing it.
Well, I think something million they were called when I grew one. And I got loads.
Was it or something?
What's it called, Steve?
Sweet million or something like that, was it?
And millions of them, but what a faff on to pick them off. Do you know what I mean? It's just saying that there's no. You know what I mean?
It is horrible to try to pick them off.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to actually serve those as an entire truss.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I was trying to do on a salad. I'd put the whole truss on it because I'm like, I am not picking all those off. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Talking of tomatoes, Tony, I've got those tomatoes. I will be sending them off to you this week now.
Right, it's this week now, is it? Because I'm looking at the postman every day, and I'm asking, you know what I mean? Actually,
Barry's crazy cherry. They're about 1.5 foot tall now, nice decent size.
All right, right.
I'll get them packaged up and couriered over to you.
Well, that'll be
post-haste.
Post-haste, I'll be making a little video of that because I'm ready to kind of go there now on the other side. So I think my chilies will be going in soon. I'm just going to use one because I think I've messed up. I mentioned this on a video that I haven't ordered by the sound of it aubergines or grafted tomatoes or anything like that. So
no,
I'm going to have some space in my polytunnel.
I
don't think you have, because where we got them from last year, Tony, the aubergines, was Delftland Nurseries, wasn't it? They're not doing them this year.
Aye, I know. And it's like what a shame, because they were quality plants, to be honest. They just worked all the time, but no.
And in light of those efforts that I was sent last week, those from Jay Parker's, those little farty things I was sent, unbelievable.
So what have you done with them, Steve? Are you still going to try and run with them, are you?
I've potted them on. I mean, by the time the video had been out about 2 hours, and suddenly there was an email in my inbox from Parker's telling me that they'd refunded me for them. They were awfully sorry about not getting in contact, about them being late and everything. There's now an apology on the topic itself, and I pinned it at the top.
Oh wow.
But even so, they should have been a bit more proactive. And I'm hoping that from the conversation I've had with him, that they're looking to improve things, to be honest. So
Well, that's nice to know, to be quite honest, because I think sometimes you're just kind of shouting into the
Get
wind.
nothing.
Aye.
Yeah.
So, well, good on you to kind of name and shame, to be honest, Steve. It's like, it's about time some other, folks were
So
kind of doing
I'll
that.
be doing an update about what he said to me and where we're going with this in an upcoming video when the plants come down to the allotment and I try and plant them on. So
See, it
I'll
would
do
be
a
good
proper
as
update on
well.
that.
It would be good as well at the end of the season to see what you've got, to say, I did everything right and they still haven't worked. You know what I mean? Yes,
Yeah.
it's nice green foliage, but that's not what you want. Do you know what I mean? You kind of want a pepper. Listen, ladies, gentlemen, JB, thank you very much for coming. One last time.
There it is.
There we go. One last
Fantastic.
time.
I will
Listen-
never send you a photo of something that I destroyed.
Yeah.
Ever.
I'm not getting any
Never.
photographs of you now. You know what I mean?
Never.
Nothing.
Yes.
Well, listen, everybody, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Don't forget, I keep on not doing this, but you can subscribe to my show. That would be fantastic. Next week, next Tuesday, 7 p.m, hopefully we're going to get JB, Steve and Jessie from Plot 37 on for a little chat as well about her little disaster with tomatoes. So everyone...
And I'll be in the chat. I'll be in the chat.
Oh, lovely.
next-
Audrey, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So,
Just
yeah,
one
yeah,
second.
well.
Just
Right.
a big thanks to Glenn for doing that video. 'Cause
Yes,
that was marvellous.
Glenn,
And
I
I'm
mean...
excited about that. So cheers, pal.
Oh,
I'll be in touch.
bloody hell, the old boy's getting excited. The dragon has risen. See you later. Toodle pip.
No,
Bye-bye.
wait, wait, wait. Is there any questions?